Those who were tracking Jesus down and even came then to Capernaum after he had miraculously fed them on the other side of the lake were seeking Jesus out for inferior reasons. They wanted more free food. Yet Jesus tries to tell them that he has much more to offer them. Indeed, more than the loaves and fish multiplied to feed the large crowd, and even more than the manna that miraculously fell from heaven during their ancestors wandering in the desert for 40 years on their way to the promised land. These divine interventions, marvelous as they may be, only foreshadow what Jesus has come to offer, which is his very self as the bread of life. For us to appreciate what they seem to miss, we have to pay careful attention to the simple words Jesus chooses. He doesn't say that he is the bread that sustains life, but rather that he is the bread of life. Indeed, many among us remember the old commercial, Wonder Bread builds strong bodies in 12 ways. And maybe that claim deserves some further scrutiny for a lot of reasons. Yet we can see that it and other breads indeed help to nourish and sustain life. But they do not have the power to impart the gift of life itself. Yet when Jesus reveals that he is the bread of life, he is emphasizing his uniqueness as the very source of life, of which this sojourn through time for all of us is meant only to be a preview. Indeed, no other bread can impart the fullness of life as it satisfies all hungers, ends all thirsts, and as we will soon be reminded further on in this 6th chapter of St. John, can defeat even death itself. Jesus then, under the appearances of bread and wine in the Eucharist, is truly the food of endless life. That is what he wants to offer. And to seek him out for whatever other reason is to be rather short-sighted about who Jesus really is and what he can and truly wants to share with us. Each week here at Christ the King, we are certainly carrying out the work of Jesus, feeding the multitude, as with the generous support given by so many of you to our Matthew 25 fund, our dedicated volunteers under the guidance of St. Vincent de Paul Society are able to lessen the burden of food insecurity suffered by a rather significant number of households, even here in the greater Mashpee area. This is good, and this is right. But as the many cars line up each Wednesday morning, I am often reminded of this 6th chapter of the Gospel of St. John. For while we would certainly never want any to approach us as a community of believers in Jesus Christ who are asking for our help and then be sent away empty-handed, so we must do what we can do to provide them food. Yet I am left to wonder how many appreciate that we also have something far superior than life's basic necessities to offer them. For at the 8:30 Mass each weekday, and at the varied times each weekend, we are celebrating the Eucharist. Thus we are consecrating bread and wine at Christ's command, in his memory, and according to his exact instruction. So we are confecting what is no ordinary bread, but actually Jesus himself coming among us not merely to sustain life as we are already living it, but to impart to us life that is destined to survive even death. The challenge for us then is to believe that the Eucharist is as Jesus himself revealed it to be, him as the very bread of eternal life. Thus, to make whatever sacrifice or effort necessary for us to always be here to receive him, and then to love others enough that we might have the courage to share this truth with them, such that they would then want to be here too. Indeed, in the bigger picture and taking the longer view, we might ask ourselves the challenging question: is it enough that we care, as we must, that stomachs do not go empty, yet not be as concerned, or maybe even more so, that perhaps out of ignorance or even sadly indifference to who Jesus is and what he assures he is giving us here, souls are at risk of being deprived of the only sustenance that can save them from death?